Hey guys, what's up? It's the Ladders to Nowhere here. I'm playing Homefront today. It's not a winning game. In fact, I think I was last death in this game, and I don't have the highest score, but there were some fun moments in this game, and I really enjoy playing this game, and I just happened to hit record when I was playing this yesterday, so I figured I would use this. So now to talk about what I want to talk about today, and that is what music drives you, what music fuels you. For a very young age, I grew up in a household with a record collecting father. We have two huge rooms in my parents' home, and the downstairs that are devoted to vinyl, pretty much filled with vinyl. And I grew up with that from a young age. I was listening to Elvis, the Beatles, the Animals, all that stuff. That's Buddy Holly. That's what I grew up with. So my first start into music was that at a very, very young age. My first cassette I ever owned was a Beatles cassette. My first CD when CDs came out was a Bob Dylan Greatest Hits Volume 1. So that was my start in music. Because of that, I've seen a lot of concerts that people my age probably shouldn't see, but I've seen the Beach Boys, Jan and Dean, the Righteous Brothers, Lou Christie. The Association, seen Bob Dylan 3 times. I've seen, God, it just goes on and on. Bowser, Sha-na-na. So, at a young age, that's what started me with it, with rock and roll as a whole, was just all those things that my father introduced me to and I mean a very, very young age, my whole life, pretty much. So, about, I'd say like 4th grade or so, I started getting into a little bit of punk rock. I'll just use punk rock as a generalization of what I was listening to, because these aren't specifically punk rock bands. But I started listening to like DRI and the Cramps and things of that nature. And around that same time period too, I was also listening to the metal of those days, or it's not really metal, hair bands, whatever, but like Poison, Bon Jovi, like Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, those albums, and things like that. So in elementary school, that's what pushed me to do things. DRI especially, that Thrash Zone came out right around then when I was in like 4th grade, something like that, and that album just once I hit that like thrash that DRI played was just phenomenal. That really got to me. So when I got into, I don't know, like 9th grade-ish, just starting high school, one of my friends who was a year or two older introduced me to Bad Religion. So Bad Religion fueled a lot of that pop punk music of the time within me, and I was listening to a lot of Bad Religion, No Use for a Name, No Effects, early Face to Face, the early Pennywise albums, in fact, even the early Offspring albums I think were good until they got into that "Give It to Me, Baby" shit. But so I was listening to a lot of stuff like that, and it just felt fast. The fast. Very easy to play shit, but at the time I didn't realize it just felt fast, and it kind of fueled me to do whatever I was doing. And a little farther on in high school, I got introduced to hardcore, and being as I live in upstate New York, where Buffalo's 2.5 hours away, Rochester's 2 hours away, Syracuse is 2 hours away. I'm like at a triangle point in all those areas. At that time, Syracuse was huge for hardcore. Buffalo had some good hardcore bands too. Like, Buffalo had Snapcase, and I started listening to Snapcase, and Syracuse had, a lot of it was straight edge music, and I'm not straight edge, but still those bands, they just had that sound. And from there, it led me into like New York hardcore. So I was listening to bands like Madball, Sick of It All, Agnostic Front, all that stuff, and I still listen to everything I've mentioned these days. But so I went through that big phase. I was going to Hellfest, and I was Hellfest in Syracuse when it was in Syracuse, and then it moved to Jersey, and I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. But so I was going to Hellfest, and I'd go to Buffalo a lot for shows. I've seen Every Time I Die, who knows how many times. They're probably one of my favorite bands still. So I was listening to a lot of that stuff. And, these days, I listen to a little bit of everything. Like Iron Maiden's still one of my favorite bands of all time. I just recently saw them again at Darien Lake. They played there for their new tour that was just a couple months ago over the summer. So I got to go to that, and I've seen them a few times, and that's always a good time. But luckily, like I said, I live in an area where a lot of stuff's not too far away. So I've seen I don't know how many shows, and usually within 2 hours there's something good to go see. And I consider Buffalo like 2 hours. So, and then the city, New York City's 4.5 hours. Philly's takes like 4.5 hours from here. So, I'm in a shitty area as far as nothing goes on right here, but within a few hours drive, there's always something good going on musically. So these days, I don't know. I'm listening to, I'm still listening to Every Time I Die, Maiden. I think the last NoFX album was great, Coasters. There's just a lot of stuff. One of the new bands, they're not brand new. They've been out for a little while now, but Gaslight Anthem, that's phenomenal. It's like young Bruce Springsteen with a little more of an edge to it. It's just great shit. So I've been listening to that a lot lately. They just came out with their new album like 2 months ago or something like that. That's a good album, although 59 sound still the best in my opinion. But then I branch out a little bit. Bands like Lucero, they have that like southern rock punk-esque edge to them. I don't know. I'm terrible with genres of music. Trying to there's so many genres and minuscule genres within genres, and it's so hard to keep track of everything. But I listen to bands like Lucero. Mock Orange is a great band. There's just so many good bands out there, and the thing is, like, I would say in my life, the only time I've ever really listened to what we'll call popular music was like hair metal from the 80s and all the 50s, 60s rock and roll, obviously. And then I did go through a Guns N' Roses, Nirvana era where I listened to a lot of them. And, that's obviously popular, but I'd say for the most part, most of the music I listen to is a little less mainstream, let's say. I think most of the shit on the radio is just that shit. I haven't heard anything popular or good come out in a long time, or since the 80s probably. There's so much bad music out there these days, and there's so much good music people don't know about, and it just makes me wonder, why some of the bands aren't as well known as they are. Especially I think Gaslight Anthem's pretty big now, to be honest with you. I don't really know. I don't follow music as much like I used to when I was younger, But music is something that's always driven me, and I'll still consider myself a mid '90s hardcore kid, and it's those bands are just, I don't know. There's something about them. Like Madball's demonstrating my style, the little play on DMS there, but that's still one of my favorite albums to listen to. Just that kind of sing-along hardcore. I don't know. And I have one band. They're from Lehigh Valley, PA area. That Weston. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Weston, but Weston is one of my all-time absolute favorite bands. There was something about seeing them live. I've seen them live 4 or 5 times. They're just an amazing band. Of course, they're not around anymore, but they were great. But I want to know what music fuels you guys.